All right, good morning. My name is Jeff Warrock here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield. This is the Monday weather briefing that'll cover the week, really weather for the rest of this week, and we're really all the way through Sunday. And we may talk a little bit about some of the Sail 250 things that are going to be going on this weekend. Just kind of looking at what happened yesterday, I thought I would kind of throw this up there, kind of showing the big picture. So obviously this is where we had the heaviest rain, really right across central Virginia from north of Farmville all the way through downtown Richmond. That's where we had that really strong, severe storm track. Knocked out a lot of power, damaging a lot of trees. Kind of see there really an average of anywhere from maybe 3/4 of an inch up to an inch, maybe even an inch and a half of rain reported in a few locations. Had another strong storm. See this little green track coming up more towards Petersburg. Another strong storm developed there and actually moved up kind of towards New Kent. And the whole system kind of congealed and became one big blob of severe weather that really moved across parts of the upper parts of the peninsula here, where you're really seeing anywhere from an inch and a half to 2 inches of rain or so in that area there. So everything kind of congealed into one big massive storm complex that went on out and hit the eastern shore. I had this other really severe storm that developed down, basically really developed down in the Carolinas. It came up through Franklin. You see this little streak down here in this kind of the lighter blue area here. And then it started to kind of intensify as it got north of Suffolk here. You see that green blob near Harbor View. And then, of course, that ran right into a Newport News and Hampton, had wind gusts there reported of 78 miles an hour at Newport News. And that went on to Langley and was still producing over 70-mile-per-hour wind as it exited on the other side of the peninsula, causing a lot of damage down there. So that's the areas that we saw some rain, kind of the haves and the have-nots. Some folks got very little rain, where other folks got a fair amount of rain. If you kind of go ahead and look for the last 7 days, this is a 7-day total. So this takes into account the storms from Friday. So you see a little bit more coverage of what kind of precipitation we've had. And the scale did change. So basically the lighter green's a ½ inch to an inch, the medium green kind of an inch to an inch and a half. And by the time you get into dark green colors, that's 1.5 to 2 inches, and even 2 to 3 in the yellows. So some areas have seen some decent rain, mostly really focused here, kind of an east to west area from the peninsula and northern neck, west across central Virginia. But a lot of the south side, south of Petersburg, haven't really seen much rain at all for the most part. North Carolina is kind of real hit or miss. Same thing up here in Maryland. We've seen some rain, but not everybody's seen a ton. So this is just your 7-day total. So helps the drought out a little bit, but it's just not a real big, we haven't had the big widespread rainfall producers here, just a lot of hit and miss thunderstorms. And that's probably the way it's going to be here for a little while. So we'll get right into today's briefing, looking ahead to the weather this week. So just kind of step you through the weather fronts. I'll take you through this afternoon. We had that front push through, that cold front push through basically last night and this morning. Had a nice north wind this morning, bringing in some drier air. The winds are going to decrease through the day today. And this evening, that front will be stalled somewhere just north of Wilmington, that cold front. And we got high pressure building in from the west, and the winds will decrease, through the afternoon. As we get into Tuesday, we still have high pressure right over us. That front stalled to the south. Maybe a little wave of low pressure tries to develop along it. But other than maybe an isolated shower far, southeast areas of northeast North Carolina, maybe right along, Kitty Hawk, that's really going to be about it for tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, again, you kind of see that front starting to kind of lift north a little bit and starting to drift back towards northeast North Carolina. And by the time you get into Wednesday, that whole system's going to lift back to the north as a warm front. And so the warm front's all the way up into Maryland there by the time we get into Wednesday morning. So that means the humidity is going to return, the heat's going to return for Wednesday and Thursday, maybe a little bit into Friday. But that warm front's going to push north, allowing that moist air to kind of return from the south. Maybe get a few widely scattered, isolated showers on Wednesday, but nothing too concerning. By the time you get to Thursday, again, a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture coming from the south. But you do see this cold front starting to make its way basically from the Great Lakes, down through parts of Ohio and starting to almost approach Kentucky. And this is Thursday morning. And so what's going to happen is we are expecting to see maybe some widely scattered showers and maybe even a few thunderstorms develop ahead of this front. It's probably going to be late in the day on Thursday. We're probably talking about, again, after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon into Thursday evening. We may start to see some thunderstorms popping up here ahead of that front as it gets closer. And some of those could be severe, so we'll talk about that a little bit. By the time you get into Friday morning, it looks like that front is actually starting to make its way across a lot of the area. Maybe just a few showers around, maybe Friday morning. We're gonna have to watch out for that. It could be that's the parade of sail for sail 250. Could be a few little showers around. I don't think we'll see any kind of real severe weather. Could be a stray rumble of thunder Friday morning, and we'll just have to see how that goes. The front does actually stall out, unfortunately. It kind of stalls out across southeast Virginia. Gets a little bit of northeast North Carolina there by Saturday. So Friday evening could be a little bit tricky weather-wise. And then for Saturday, it looks like high pressure will push the whole system down to the south. So Thursday, Friday are really our weather days this week as far as best chances for showers and storms. And then by the weekend, it looks like high pressure building in, pushing everything way to the south. And on Sunday, again, high pressure really building in across the mid-Atlantic. So I think we'll be in pretty good shape for the weekend. Just going to have to get through Thursday and Friday. So again, looking at the next 3 days, really not seeing much of a chance of rain. This takes us all the way through Wednesday evening. And again, maybe low chances, anywhere from, I'd say, 20% a chance rain, maybe up to 40 there. You see in parts of Maryland, Ocean City, and Salisbury. We could see a few little showers closer to the coast. But this is just going to be a few showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, but nothing really to be too concerned about. So for the most part, the beginning part of this week is going to be fairly dry. Now, as we get into later this week, we do have that risk of severe weather there on Thursday. And so that right now is where the level 2 slight risk is located as far as the risk of severe weather. It's going to be late in the day. So as far as the timing of this, we'll see if that shifts a little bit further south. They've been slowly nudging this risk of severe weather further and further south. So we'll see if it starts to get into Hampton Roads with later updates. It's all going to be dependent upon timing and how hot things get, what time the showers and storms actually arrive. So a lot of questions with this. We may not even see that much coverage. It may not be as much coverage of storms as what we saw yesterday. It just may be a little more hit and miss on Thursday. So it's kind of a stay tuned. We'll see how things play out there on Thursday. Get into Friday, Saturday, there's no risk of severe weather. There could still be a few showers around Friday, but there's no risk of severe storms on Friday. So this is kind of looking at our precipitation timing. We put these tables in now where the POP or POP is a chance of rainfall, and the POT or POT is a chance of thunderstorms. And it does a pretty good job here, I think, showing those really, really low chances there on Wednesday. Not a whole lot going on. Thursday, you do see the kind of that round, but it's kind of late after about 3 or 6 o'clock. Really, after 6 o'clock is your best chance of showers and thunderstorms really across the entire area. So I think we're okay for most of the day Thursday. We'll just have to watch out for the evening and into the early parts of the overnight. And then you do see better chances on Friday, really everywhere. So maybe some chance of showers there in the morning, and you see that the oranges showing up in the afternoon with the chance of a few thunderstorms. And that's because that front's going to come down and probably kind of stall out a little bit over parts of the area. And so Friday could be very unsettled with a few little showers around in the morning, and then maybe a chance of thunder in the afternoon and in the evening. I don't think it's going to be like a washout. This isn't like a rain all day kind of thing. I think it's just going to start out kind of hit and miss and scattered. But we're going to heat up some. And then as we heat up a little bit with that front stalled and across the area, we may start to see some of those thunderstorms popping up. And then the best chance of thunder is over parts of southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. You see like a Hosky here as well as Chesapeake, a little better chance of storms. Same thing with Edenton, Elizabeth City, Emporia. So really it's the southern areas that have probably the best chances of getting some thunder, but we'll see how that goes. This here is the probability in a blend of models of a 1/4 inch of rain. And I meant to turn my legend on, so I apologize for that. But this is actually Friday morning. So what it's suggesting is that, there is a possibility of seeing a few little, widely scattered showers around the area. And some of them may be able to produce about, maybe a 1/4 inch of rain or so over about a 6-hour time frame. So this is Friday morning. So this is showing here over southeast Virginia, parts of where the parade of sail is going to take place, that we could actually see a few of those showers there in the morning. It's kind of showing a low probability of a 1/4 inch of rain. So that means there could be some showers around. Same thing around Richmond and places north of Richmond. As you push into Friday afternoon and evening, you really see that probability increase. So really, I'd say from, from the Piedmont really all the way over towards the coast, the probability of seeing a quarter inch of rain, which basically we're keying on maybe where some of the better rain chances are. You could definitely see how it's kind of setting up across central Virginia, and the highest probability is really over the peninsulas in southeast Virginia. So we'll have to watch this for Friday evening. This will have thunderstorm activity mixed in with it. It's not going to be severe. Remember, the severe threat is really Thursday evening. So any thunderstorms on Friday probably won't be severe, but there could be a few little showers and thunderstorms around. So right now we're going to be tracking that because of the events that will be going on Friday evening. This could become a little bit of an issue, just showing how things are a little more focused on the eastern part of Virginia for the best probability for showers and also for thunderstorms. So kind of looking ahead here on the left, that left image takes you in how much precipitation through Wednesday night, which we're not expecting any. And then the right image there showing Thursday through Sunday night. And so most of this is actually going to be falling really on Thursday evening and especially into Friday. So you can kind of see here maybe a half-inch of rain more widespread, hopefully across central Virginia. And as you get into southeast Virginia, definitely seeing higher rainfall totals, like what you just saw in the probabilities. Things may get a little more focused there on Friday and especially Friday evening over eastern and southeast Virginia. It's needed rain. It may just be some rough timing there for some of the events that are expected Friday night there across parts of Hampton Roads. So shifting gears into heat, we're really not in too bad a shape until about Thursday. You do start to see this elevated heat risk starting to show back up again. So that means the heat index is probably going to be starting to approach that 100-degree mark or so by the time we get into Thursday. Thursday is going to start out pretty sunny. It's going to feel kind of soupy like it did before, so that humidity comes back. And so, I would expect temperatures pretty much in the 90s with heat index maybe getting to around maybe mid 90s to around 100, depending on where you are. Obviously, the areas in orange are where we're forecasting the highest heat index values, but I think everybody's going to be pretty much in the upper 90s, with a few folks maybe starting to sneak either side of 100 degrees, especially across parts of Hampton Roads and maybe even up to Richmond and parts of the I-95 corridor. We may be a heat index in the upper 90s there for Thursday. For Friday, it's still kind of muggy, but it's not going to be too bad because we're going to have that front stalled over us. Probably going to be mostly cloudy, maybe a few little peaks of sun here and there, because it's not going to be a washout on Friday, but it's just going to be muggy and warm. The real heat day this week really does look like it's going to be Thursday, with more shower activity expected on Friday. So kind of looking ahead for the entire week, you can see those temperatures there we talked about on Thursday. So really a lot of low to mid 90s, maybe even a few upper 90s starting to sneak in there. And like I said, with the heat index, we're going to be talking probably right around upper 90s to low 100s with that heat index on Thursday. And again, a lot of sunshine early in the day. I think we will see a few clouds starting to build late in the day, but I think it's going to be too late. I think by the time the clouds start to maybe move in, it's almost going to be really Thursday evening. So I think most of the day is going to be pretty sunny and pretty hot on Thursday with that heat index. And again, we kind of see that chance of rain there, mainly going to be late Thursday. And then again on Friday Friday afternoon, Friday evening is your really best chance of rain. But we do have that risk of severe, Thursday evening. Want to kind of just show a couple of forecasts out there, since I know we do have a lot of focus on Hampton Roads and really Norfolk, Portsmouth with the events this weekend. So this is just looking ahead to the forecast table there. But here in Norfolk, already forecasting a heat index of 101 there on Thursday. Kind of covers really all of Hampton Roads, even Hampton, Newport News. Everybody's going to be in the same boat there. Chance of rain, on Thursday is about maybe 38%. Chance of thunder about 35%. And that's late in the day. So this is after, I'd say, 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe even after 6 o'clock where we get that chance of thunder. Friday, though, you see a much higher chance of precipitation. Looks like it's going to be pretty likely, about an 80% chance of rain. Again, not a washout. I think, probably better chances late in the day versus in the morning. It's just going to be a few showers, hit and miss in the morning, but then maybe more heavy rain and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. And the chance of thunderstorms is about 43%. And it's still going to be kind of warm and muggy Friday. You notice how the high is still around 90 or so, and the heat index still in the mid 90s. So, that front's going to be parked right over us, warm and muggy. Just not going to feel great. Looking into the weekend, things do improve. That cold front pushes south into the Carolinas, and so it is cooler for the weekend. And maybe a chance of rain early Saturday morning. That's at 47%. But I think by the time we get to the events on Saturday, there's not going to be any chance of rain. I think that's just really early Saturday morning as far as that chance of rain you're seeing there. And this is just looking the same thing for Lynn Haven out there towards where all the activity is taking place with ships anchoring this week. And we'll get into the marine forecast here in just a moment. One thing I do want to mention on the tides, because with this north wind and the way the tide cycles are, we are seeing a little bit of, I'd say, nuisance to low end minor tidal flooding. And it's mainly going to be up here on the bay side of the Maryland Eastern Shore here from Chrisfield up through parts of Bishop's Head. Forecast is hitting right at minor flooding, kind of goes up the river here a little ways. Also maybe up the York River there, getting towards West Point. Maybe, I'd say nuisance to very low end, minor flooding there with that north wind and the way the tides have been playing. But you see most of the bay and areas are highlighted in yellow. So that's kind of that nuisance tidal flooding. You might just see a little bit of water coming up, maybe a half foot deep in areas that typically flood. And if you look kind of going out in time here, this is actually for today here, Tuesday night on the second image here. So we're going to continue to see this kind of nuisance to minor tidal flooding probably for the next several tide cycles for today, tomorrow, and even into Wednesday for parts of the Maryland Eastern Shore, where you kind of see that orange kind of hanging on up there. So just some elevated tides here for the next few days. Nothing too extreme, just a little bit of higher tides than what we normally see. Rip current wise, I'd say it's low, maybe low to almost not quite moderate there with that north wind here at Virginia Beach. But the winds are coming down this afternoon. So if it is a little kicked up right now this morning, it should be coming down by this afternoon. So, we went with a low threat. It may be a little bit close to moderate early this morning here. But I think things are going to improve this afternoon. So right now we have a low threat of rip currents there along all of our beaches. Looking ahead, way ahead into basically the 20th to the 24th, looking further ahead into next week. It does look like we'll be right around normal temperatures, maybe slightly below normal temperatures on average. And precipitation, there's a little bit of a signal that things will maybe get a little bit back to normal as far as rainfall is concerned. We'll see if we actually see above normal rainfall. I wouldn't hang my hat on that yet, but maybe we can, if the pattern can stay a little bit more unsettled, maybe we can continue getting these hit and miss showers off and on. That would be welcome if that actually happens. I'm going to skip a little bit over the drought right now. This will be updated later this week, but you can kind of see areas that were improved last week actually saw the rain this past week. So we'll see how that goes. Had a little bit more heavy rain north of Richmond and getting into parts of Northern Neck. So we'll see if there's any changes with the drought monitor. But this actually is showing rain prior to what happened on Friday. So areas that actually received the most rain were the areas that actually had already seen some good rain from the previous events. And there's a little bit of a weak low pressure area that's maybe going to move along here off the Texas coast. And eventually it's going to move across the southeast U.S. But right now it looks like it's just going to be a little area of low pressure and nothing to be really too concerned about. Shifting gears onto the marine side and of what's going on. Let me close that. As far as looking ahead to this week, you kind of see here the area in orange was the small craft advisory conditions. And that was really for this morning with that north wind. It's still blowing out there right now, gust about 15 to 25 knots out there on the bay and the rivers. That the cold fronts push south. And so we've got that north wind, but those winds should be decreasing as the day progresses. And by the time we get into tomorrow, we don't see as much of a threat. Jumping ahead to Thursday, that's when the south winds really start to pick up ahead of that next cold front. And looks like we will see small craft advisory conditions really everywhere on Thursday. I'd say winds are going to be about 20 to 25 knots coming out of the southwest really all day there on Thursday. On Friday, wind's going to start to becoming a little bit more west as that front sneaks through. So it could be more of a west-southwest wind, maybe even go a little bit west-northwest. And it could still be, 15 to 20 knots out here on parts of the bay and the rivers with that west wind Friday morning for the parade of sail. So we're going to have to kind of watch out for that. Nothing too strong, maybe just enough to make things a little bit choppy. So this is getting us into the winds there, kind of some of the peak winds here this week, across the bay and the rivers. We got that north wind this morning we were talking about there, northwest wind, but it does decrease this afternoon and evening. You see there the peak gust getting down to around maybe 10 knots or so. There is a little bit of a northerly surge again tomorrow morning. You see those north winds pick back up to about maybe 15, almost 20 knots again. So there's another little surge of cool air coming in overnight tonight and right around daybreak tomorrow morning. So those north winds may pick up a little bit. Then eventually they become kind of east and southeast later in the day, kind of probably holding right around, I'd say 10 to 15 knots. Then we get a little bit of a break in the wind, but as we get into late Wednesday and especially Thursday, you see those southwest winds really starting to pick up ahead of the front there, about 20, 25 knots, maybe even some higher gusts. Further offshore, same story as you get out into the coastal waters. The main thing here is on Thursday, those winds are obviously a little bit stronger, being offshore with some gusts getting close to 30 knots or so as you get out into the offshore waters, especially as you push out beyond Chesapeake Light, some pretty good winds offshore. And this is kind of looking ahead for I will say for Saturday and Sunday. You do see that little front sneaks through. The winds kind of go northwest right there on Saturday. So that's that weak front kind of pushing through, but it's not a big surge of wind. So I think most of the wind's going to be Thursday, into about Friday morning. A little bit of a wind shift there for Saturday coming out of the northwest, but the winds really decrease there on Saturday afternoon. So I think the weekend looks great. I don't think we're going to see much wind, just a little bit of a breeze Saturday morning from the northwest, but then things start to kind of continue to calm down. So does not look like high wind this weekend. Does not look like very unsettled weather. So it's really Thursday, Friday. Those are the days where we're really going to be watching the weather. Wave height, again, about maybe 3 to 4 feet right now there on parts of the bay with that wind this morning coming down this afternoon, and then seas will build back up again on Thursday as those south winds increase. Same thing offshore, some pretty good wave heights, here with that north wind today. Things kind of decrease here for a little while on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we have the seas building up again Thursday and especially Friday as that south wind increases. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the briefing here, and I will stop the recording.